Okay, I think you should be able to hear me. Let me know if not. All right, and we'll be starting in 3 minutes here at 1:05. So if you'd like a coffee or water or anything, feel free. We'll be doing DocuSign 201 today. So what I'm going to show you in today's class is how you can create templates of your forms in DocuSign if you would like to. So essentially being able to pre-fill in your forms in DocuSign so you can pull in, let's say, the pre-filled listing agreement each and every time you have a new listing. I'm also going to show you how to utilize the opportunity checklist in KW Command, which is one of my favorite features, to essentially make your transactions smoother and create a system for each and every transaction. So again, we'll start in 3 minutes here. So let me know if you have any questions in the meantime. But yeah, we'll get started shortly here. Great, thank you, Nadine. Appreciate it. We'll get started here. All right, so of course, feel free to, let me know if you have any questions as we go through all this, or if there's something specific that you need to see in DocuSign or would be helpful to see. Nadine, are you on a team? Are you on the Heather Skinner team? Is that right? I just want to make sure I tailor it to teams, if so.
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much. Okay, perfect. So I'll point out the times that, you need to know something extra being a part of a team. In general, just so you know, on kwbresources.com, I do have notes and essentially 10-minute videos on everything I'm going to tell you today. So you don't have to remember everything I'm going to say. So I just want to point out where that resource is. So kwbresources.com, right? That's our internal website for agents. So this is not for the public. This is for all the resources in our office. And so just a heads up, where the notes are for any of our tech trainings will be, if you hover over tech resources on the top toolbar here, you'll see the option for live tech training. So that third option down. And so this will show you, the class calendar coming up here, but also if you scroll on down, a couple different ones that will be helpful for today for transactions. If you need more on DocuSign, so we did DocuSign 101 on Tuesday, and that'll be the complete DocuSign notes there. However, at the very bottom, or a little bit down here, you'll see transaction management. I'm going to be referencing these notes because I have some tools like as far as how to set up the opportunity checklist. So in case you want to go ahead and open that, again, it's kwbresources.com, and I can put this in the chat. And you'll click on transaction management. Here, let me just put this in the chat so you can click it right away. Okay. So that should work for you, but in general, what you're looking at here, I did highlight the items that I would recommend, paying attention to after today's class. But it does break down essentially in 10-minute videos what we're going over today, and I'll reference back to this so you have it. Last thing I just want to let you know about as far as tech resources in our market center, if you need one-on-one training, right, you can meet with us one-on-one up to once a week. It's paid for by the market center, so it's free for you guys to utilize. So from kwbresources.com, you'll see it says I need tech help on the top right. That is our Calendly link, so you can book an appointment with us and we'll sit down with you, for 30 minutes a week, and we can help set all of this up. So just a heads up about all your tech resources, and again, don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions. But I will go ahead and get started in Command. So the first thing that we'll do, of course, to get into DocuSign or utilize that with Command, we'll want to log into agent.kw.com. And Nadine, if you don't mind letting me know, it's just you on today's class, which is awesome, so I can really tailor this to you. How comfortable do you feel with DocuSign in general? Like, would you like me to go through more of an overview, or do you feel okay on DocuSign?
No, I'm good with it. I just wanna, like what you said a while ago, I just want to
Perfect.
learn how we can create templates,
Love
our
it.
own templates using DocuSign.
Awesome. Okay, great. So we'll start with that then, and then I can show you opportunity checklists as well. Sorry. So in general, right, as you probably know, in order to get into DocuSign, you'll always go to Command first. And this keyboard's a little sticky, so that's why the password keeps showing correct. Okay. So in general, when you're starting new transactions in Command, of course, we would start in Command usually, right? So that DocuSign and Command does link up. Now, if you're just trying to go directly to DocuSign, you absolutely can, right? By going to rooms.docusign.com. So totally up to you, since I'll assume that you know how to start a transaction in DocuSign. I'll kind of skip that, but of course, let me know if you want me to go over that in more detail. But in general, right, you can go to rooms.docusign.com to log in to access DocuSign the quickest way possible. So they did create a real estate version for KW, and that's rooms.docusign.com. So instead of just going to docusign.com, rooms.docusign.com. We'll go ahead and sign in real quick. But again, like I mentioned, and like you probably already know, you do, anytime you're just trying to start a transaction for the first time, that's when you do have to go into Command first in order to start that transaction. Otherwise, you can go directly to rooms.docusign.com, like if you just need to go ahead and get into your DocuSign account. Okay, so what I'm going to show you first is, how to create those templates. So the idea is that you can pre-fill, let's say, a listing agreement, a buyer agency, you name it, with any of the information that you're in general putting every single time or most of the time for a listing agreement or on those forms. So to do that, and it'll make a lot more sense as we go through it, but to do that, again, I'm in rooms.docusign.com, and I'll click on My Documents on the top white toolbar. Right, so from My Documents right here, right, as I scroll down, you'll see it has My Forms. So again, My Documents on the very top white toolbar, and then if I scroll down, you'll see My Forms, right? And so this will show you if you do have any templates currently created, assuming that you do not yet, and you will see what it looks like once you do. Right, but you can change it, let's say, to see all forms that are in DocuSign in here, or just your templates, and I'll come back to this once we actually create a template. which you'll do by clicking on New Template on the right-hand side. And of course, just let me know if I lose you at any point here. So that's
Good.
New Template. Yeah, sorry, did I lose you?
No, said I'm good.
Oh, good, thanks. Appreciate it. So we say New Template on the right-hand side here. It'll bring up our forms library. So totally up to you on how you access, the form that you're looking for. Let's say we're going to do this for a listing agreement or buyer agency. You can leave it on library, that first drop down, and then that will show you any libraries that you have access to. However, I personally like to change the first drop down menu. So that first drop down, I like to change to DocuSign form packet instead, because that will instead change the second drop down here to more be what our broker in charge, how they separate the forms, by the North Carolina listing and North Carolina or South Carolina listing, North Carolina sales, etc. So totally up to you. All the forms are there either way, but let's say I go ahead and do it that way and select North Carolina listing file. Right, it's going to show me all the forms that our broker in charge has grouped as a North Carolina listing, so it makes it a little easier to find, in my opinion. Of course, you can use the search bar to find the form you're looking for by the form number or just typing out the form name. But let's say we'll do this for the exclusive right to sell. You can simply click on the radio dot on the left-hand side and then click use. Once this loads, the idea of what we're doing is, again, filling out the form for whatever is typically on every single listing agreement. For example, always we write the firm name in as far as who the listing agreement is with. If you write NA in a field every single time or most of the time for a listing agreement, right, you can go ahead and pre-fill that in. So even if it's, most of the time, if it's like it's not stucco and you want to go ahead and put NA or the personal property not conveying, once you bring this into your DocuSign room, like for an actual transaction in the future, of course, you can always change any of this. So the idea that you're wanting to go into this with is, okay, I'm going to pre-fill this in with whatever I most of the time would put in. So I might recommend bringing up one of Heather's listing agreements that she's done for another property, right? Or other properties, and seeing, what is it that she's filling in, the same thing every single time kind of deal, so that I can go ahead and pre-fill that in.
So to clarify, does this mean, like, for example, the listing agreement, we already have that form, like pre-filled, form from KW, but we can still create a template for that with her usual details?
Yeah, so this would be pre-filling in the form so that when you pull in the listing agreement in the future to a DocuSign room, it's already half filled out or filled in to whatever extent you need it to be. Are you more looking to create like a template from a PDF? Or is there a certain
Yes,
need
that will
that you
also
have?
do, but yeah, this is also helpful so that we won't have to type the phrases and our terms and conditions. Yeah, so
Okay,
that's
yeah,
great.
because I can show you next how, if you have a PDF, if there's another form that you guys consistently use that you want to turn into a template, I can show you how to do that as well, if that would be helpful.
Okay, great.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so in general, the idea here is just going through and filling it in to the extent that you would typically fill it in. Of course, there's certain things you can't fill in, right? But as far as, if you write NA in a certain field every single time, right? You could go ahead and type that in each time. I know that sounds like a little thing, but right, there's a lot of times, agents will write NA in different fields, and so that just really saves you that time going forward once you can pull this into your DocuSign room. You can create several versions of these templates. So, if you wanted to create, let's just say, a listing agreement, one for cash deals or one for conventional, you could create two of these. But the idea is, if you want to fill in a couple fields, I'm going to show you the how of, how to go ahead and save it and then apply it in the future. And then, of course, you can come back and fill out the form afterwards. I have a little less guidance on what you should pre-fill in. I do not I work with DocuSign very well, but I am not licensed, sorry, I am licensed, but I don't do listing agreements actively. So that would be more, checking with your team as far as what they would want you to pre-fill in. But the how of it, so, right, that's the concept of going through and filling in what would apply to most of your DocuSign forms for listing agreement. And then you can edit it up here, the form name. So if you do want to change the template name on the top left here, you would be able to click the pencil icon on the top left. If you wanted to change this name to, let's say, like your team name listing agreement, right? So if you did residential unleashed listing agreement or template, just so you know what this form name is, or if this is for finance deals, whatever the case may be, you can go ahead and rename that on the top left. And click the checkbox or the green check on the right hand side to actually save or apply that name. Okay, so on the right hand side, we're going to see that checkbox here, or the check mark. I'll go ahead and click on that. And that will apply the form name. All right, so now what I'm going to show you is how you would apply these templates. So once you create it, how you would go and actually utilize them when you have an upcoming transaction. Okay, so from here, I'll click on Save and Close, and I will point out how we got here again. So I'll click on Save and Close on the top right. And that'll take me back to my forms section here. Right, so if I wanted to see any of the templates that I currently have, right, showing me forms and templates, so I could change that, let's say, to just see the templates, meaning any of them I have pre-filled in, right? So these are ones that I have already created in the past. I usually practice with the listing agreement here. So just a heads up, if you did want to create a copy of it, to create a second template, of that same form, right? Because you can, again, have multiple templates for the same form, if that's helpful. You could copy that. So it would copy that template with all of the information you have pre-filled, and then you could tweak whatever you would need to for that second template. But of course, I'm going to show you now how you can, in the future, now when you have your next listing appointment, actually utilize this, pull this template in, and of course you can make changes depending on that specific transaction once it's in your DocuSign room. Okay, so again, how we got here, just a reminder, right, is from DocuSign, we clicked on My Documents. And then as I scroll down, this is where you'll see that template, the My Forms section, and you can create new templates right here. Okay, so how we actually apply that now. So if you have a DocuSign room already that is for a listing, or you can just watch on my screen, right? I'll click on Rooms to go back to all of my DocuSign rooms. Now go ahead and click on one that I have for a listing, let's say. So the Documents tab of my DocuSign room, right? So the idea is, so of course, as you know, right, when you create a new DocuSign room, when you create a new transaction in Command, right, it automatically pulls over all the required forms that you need. So the exclusive right to sell should really always be in your room already when you go in to apply the template. So I'll show you different ways that you can do this. But the main way that you'll want to do is, so okay, if I go to the exclusive right to sell and I right click on the form, I'll see an option now that says apply form template. So that option only displays if you've gone and created a template. Like for example, I have one created for the exclusive right to sell. I do not have a template created, let's say for the residential property disclosure. So you can see I don't even have the option to apply a template. So just a heads up, it'll only display, let's say on forms I've created a template for. So I can click apply form template here. And you should only really have one if you've just created one. Again, I always practice with the listing agreement here. So if you do have multiple templates, of course it would show. So if you created one for cash deals and one for finance deals, and as an example, you'll see that you can tell the difference in the actual template name. And all I'm wanting to do is really just click on the template I would like to apply and click apply. and it will automatically apply any of the pre-filled information that we had on that specific template. And of course, now I could open it up and then change, any of the fields as needed as applies to this specific transaction. So that's why I say, filling out the template is helpful for whatever you usually do, because then when you apply it to an actual transaction, like you're seeing here, then I can always open up the form to tweak it further for this specific transaction. Let me know if you have questions on that. I am going to show you just one more way to apply templates. So, let's say in the case that the form isn't already in your DocuSign room, which usually that happens because, again, right, it automatically adds any required forms that you have to the DocuSign room. But in the case that it's not, so let's say, I don't know, you make a template for, well, there's a lead-based paint, but, an addendum, let's say. Right, that's not already in your DocuSign room. Just one more way that you apply templates, just so you're familiar with it. So on the top right where it says add, so I'm in the documents tab, of course, of my DocuSign room, and you'll see the blue add button on the top right. And that second option down are accessing any of your fillable forms, right? I see that blue forms icon is the same icon that I see on all my forms here. And that really just indicates that it's a DocuSign form that I'll be able to open and start typing in, right? It's an interactive form is what they call it. Meaning I can just click start typing and it will automatically put the initial and signature fields, etc. So under add in DocuSign forms here, just a heads up how it will look, let's say, if I were wanting to add that form. I think I have. Let me try to find one that I don't already have in here. I might need to switch to a different room to show you this. Hang on one sec. Let me just go to a different room so I can show you this in more accuracy. You'll see the reason I'm trying to switch to a new DocuSign room is, right, it won't let me pull in forms that I already have in my DocuSign room. But what I'm trying to show you is, now you can see when I click the checkbox, and I can re-show you how I got here. Sorry, I know that was a little messy. But you'll see when I select now these forms, right? So when I select a form that has a template created, a drop down appears in this column where it says template, so that it would allow me to select which template I want to pull in, right? So whenever you're adding new DocuSign forms, right, if you're doing it in like this is where you can go ahead and select the template that you want to bring in from that drop down. So when you click add selected, it automatically adds that specific template. Now you'll notice again that I don't even have the drop down menu for these two because I don't have form templates created quite yet for those specific forms. So it'll only show that way if you have that template created. Those are the two ways that you would apply the form templates. Again, either by clicking, add on the top right so you can access the form, or if the form's already in your DocuSign room, that's where it's easier to just right click on the form and click apply form template. All right, so if you would like to, let me know if you have questions, of course. I can show you again, so just to make sure I'm showing you the right thing. You guys are looking like you have a separate PDF, like a form that's not already within the DocuSign forms, like specific to your team, let's say, that you're wanting to make fillable, essentially. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so the feature that you're talking about is on the e-signature side. So like I mentioned that this is for real estate where it's rooms.docusign.com. Now the feature exists that you're talking about. However, it's on the e-signature side. So this is going to be a little different maybe than you've seen before. Because if you click on your headshot on the top right, or it might be your initials on the top right if you don't have a headshot, you'll see the option to switch to e-signature, and that's what really the rest of the world uses as far as DocuSign, right? It's e-signature. Since we're in real estate, we have a room side of DocuSign. But so what I would do is click on either your headshot on the top right or your initials and click switch to e-signature. And just a heads up, I do have videos on both the things that we're doing, so just don't feel like you have to remember all of it. Because the next few steps, there's just a couple steps that you'll need to know for this one. Has been a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is on the very top of my screen here, again, let me know if I lose you at any point. I'm gonna go ahead and click on the templates option. So template section here. And you'll see we're in my templates right here. So I believe what I can do, okay, yeah, it has been, I don't usually teach this in this class, I know how to do it, so just bear with me, but I believe what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click on start on the top left. And you'll see an option to create template. Actually, if you'll just hold on 1 second, I'll just do it before I send you on a wild goose chase. Make sure this is right. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, yeah, so what I did is click on add on the top left, or start, sorry. Let me go back and see. So from the templates tab, I click on start on the top left here, and then I'm going to click create a template. Okay. So from here, I can go ahead and put in the template name. And just a heads up, these steps, so the e-signature steps are like on the internet. If you were to look up how to create a PDF in DocuSign template, it would follow these steps. The room side is a little different, but I do have a video on this as well. So just don't feel like you have to remember everything I'm going to say. But let's say this is for, let's say, some certain team form, or if it's like, trying to get to know the seller or buyer, right? And you want to put in an information sheet for them to fill out, for example. You can name that whatever you want, like residential unleashed fire questionnaire, for example, whatever it is. And then the second drop down here, as I scroll down, you'll see it says add document. So I'll go ahead and click upload, and you could upload that from your computer. See if I have a PDF to play with here. And if you don't mind, I'll just go grab a PDF so I can show you a little more accurately what this looks like. So yeah, you can stay on where you are on your screen. I'll just grab a PDF so I can show you in real life. Okay, so you would upload whatever PDF that you're wanting to turn into a fillable form. So just to clarify, I know I'm practicing with an exclusive right to sell. You wouldn't need to do this for any of the normal forms that are already in your DocuSign room, right? Because they already have the fields in there for you. It automatically puts the signature initial fields. This is only if you have a separate like PDF for your team that you're wanting to convert into a fillable document. So once I add the form that I want to create as far as a turn into a fillable document, let's say, then as I scroll down here, okay, I just want to go ahead and put in the role. So for example, if this is a form for a seller information sheet, right, or buyer information sheet, right, what I would want to do is just go ahead and put in the role seller. Okay, so if that's seller 1, I could go ahead and put that in. And then let's say if in general you're wanting to send this to 2 people, right? So we're kind of prepping the template, if you will. So I don't need to put in the seller's name or email at this point, because of course we don't know that because it's for a future transaction. But we do want to go ahead and set it up for it to understand that, all right, the 2 roles that I'm going to need to assign signature fields for or boxes for them to fill out are seller 1 and 2. let's say. Okay, so you can scroll down. Of course, you could change the email subject. So this is where you could put in, let's say, Residential Unleashed buyer questionnaire. I know I'm just making up that this is what you're doing, but right, whatever you would like that email subject to be by default, put that in. Okay, and you can click on Next on the bottom right. Okay, so it will bring you then to view the form. So this is where you can go ahead and place any fields that you want for them to be able to fill in. So again, if we're doing like a seller questionnaire, whatever your goal is, right, you'll see on the left-hand side here. So two things to note, and you're probably kind of used to this, but right on the top left, it'll show you the field or the color dot coordinating to whichever client it is. So if I have seller 1 selected, I can see all these fields are yellow. If I select seller 2 from this drop down, I can see all the fields are blue. Okay, meaning it will prompt seller 1 or seller 2 to fill out that part of the form. So let's say in the case that I want seller 1, and again, I'm kind of using the example of like a seller questionnaire in this case. So if I want seller 1 to be able to put in their first name, let's say, I could go ahead and make sure I have, the seller 1 selected from the drop down the top left. I can click on text from that drop down. Sorry, from the menu over here, I can click on text. And you might have to scroll down over here to see text or any of the other things. But this is when I could go in and drop the text field. I can expand it, of course. Okay, so as far as if you want to make sure they have to fill it out, right? So depending on, let's say I want to add a field for seller 1 and then seller 2, and then I'll show you how you can choose if it's required or not. So let's just say we're pretending here, these are 2 seller questionnaire fields, all right? So when they are a solid color like this, right, it's solid, that means they will have to fill out the field. Like they cannot finish the form, completing the form without filling out that field, okay? So that might be useful for you if you want to make sure they fill that field out. However, if it's a field that they might not need to fill out, like it's up to them or they would make that decision, right? You can uncheck where it says required field. So I see these options on the right-hand side by selecting the text box in reference. So let's say if I want to do it for the first one, I can see the recipient here and I can see that's a required field. So if I uncheck that, see how it turns it clear? That's kind of just like a visual indication to you that now it's not required. They would be able to fill it out. So see how it's still like outlined in the color? Seller 1 would be able to fill it out, but they wouldn't have to. If it's solid like this, they would have to finish the form. So again, depending on if you want to make sure they fill it out, or if it's optional and up to them, that's when you can deselect if it's required or not. So that's kind of the concept, if it's a form, then they would need to sign, or you need to, add signature fields for them to sign as well. Of course, on the left-hand side, this is where we have the initial and the signature fields. So you could lay that, if it's a form that you would need to do this for. Just a reminder, if it's a form at all from the North or South Carolina Association, right, that's when you would want to use the forms that are already in DocuSign, because it automatically puts the initial and signature fields on all 13 pages here, so you don't have to. But if you are just trying to create a template like we've been going over, right, that's when we have the initial boxes here that you could go ahead and lay. And if you put it in the wrong spot, like I just did, of course, you can click on the field to move it around. You can copy and paste fields too, if that would be helpful. Let me know, I can show you how to do that. One thing to note, and I can show you how to copy and paste fields, just a couple more things to tell you though. In general, if you are laying a signature field, so if there is a need for a signature on the template that you're creating, you would need to add the date signed field as well. Okay, so in general, if you are adding a signature field manually, right, like I click on signature and I go ahead and lay that. If I want their signature to be date and time stamped, which I do, it will automatically do it for them, but you as the agent or the creator of the template need to click the date sign to add it next to the signature. And I'm not sure that even the form template that you're creating would need signatures, but just a heads up, that is the case. Anytime you add a signature field manually, it needs to have that date signed field so that it does populate the timestamp. Again, any North and South Carolina Association forms are automatically set up to do this. So this is only if you're creating a template or doing this to a PDF in general. One more thing I want to show you, if it's a field you need to fill out. So let's say it's you want to add fields that you would fill out before sending it to them. For example, like it's definitely not a field you want them to fill out, okay? So again, as we talked about the different colors on the top left here, corresponding to these fields, right? Again, meaning these fields belong to that client. If it's a field that I need to fill out as the agent, that's when we click on this little pencil icon right here. So you don't really use this gray toolbar on the left-hand side too often, honestly. Really, the only time I do is if I need to switch back and forth between the standard fields is where we were. But if it's an agent field, that's this little pencil icon on the left-hand side. So you'll notice all of these fields are gray because it's for you as the agent. So in this example, let's say you're filling out a seller questionnaire and okay, but you're gonna write in their first and last name at the top before sending it to them, let's just say. Right, that's when I could add a text field from here and you'll see it's gray, right? So it will not force them to fill it out. It won't, it will not require them because since it is gray here, that is for you as the agent. So it's for the person that's sending the form or filling it out. All right, so that does come in handy if it is a form you need or a field you need to fill out, or if you need a radio dot, or if you need to strike through something for any case, right? That's what all of these fields are for. Course, let me know if you have questions. The last thing I want to show you here is how to copy and paste fields down the page, because that is a really big time saver. If you are working on even, if you have a PDF of any of disclosures that need, let's say, text boxes all the way down, or you need these initial boxes on every single, the bottom, okay? So in general, how it works to copy and paste the initial fields, let's just say as an example, what I'll do first, if it's multiple fields that I want to be copying and pasting, right, I can click and hold my mouse and then it kind of draws the square around it. So I'm just clicking and holding my mouse and dragging it around the fields that I want to select, right? So I can tell the field selected if it's outlined in blue like this. But let's say in this case, I want both of these fields, or if I want, the 5 text boxes in a row, I would click, hold my mouse, drag around the fields that I would want to copy, right? And I can now see that both of them are selected. So now what I do is very similar to copying and pasting in general, right? On your keyboard, I can click, depending on if you have a Mac or a PC, right? If you have a PC, it's Control-C as in cat or as in copy. If you have a Mac, it's Command-C, right? So I'm essentially just highlighting the fields that I want to copy. Once it's highlighted, like outlined in blue like it is here, I'll put Control-C on my keyboard. So now to paste it, so now it's been copied. To paste it, I'll go down to whatever section of the form I would want to actually paste those fields. And I usually click on the general area of where I want it to paste. Okay, so I'm gonna, let's say, click right here. And then I'm gonna do another keyboard shortcut for paste, which is Control-V as in Victor, or Command-V if you have a Mac. And I can see that it adds those fields right here. If it randomly puts them up here, no worries, you can drag these around to place them where they need to be. And I could go down and keep doing this for each one of them, right? Each page. Click. Control-V as in Victor. to paste it. Yeah, again, the initial boxes automatically display on the forms in DocuSign, like as far as if you're working with an association form, like I have in this example. But in general, like you could do this even with text fields, right? So if you wanted the same length of a text field all the way down, right? So that you don't have to manually be adding one text field at a time and then dragging it to make it the right size. You can, let's say, lay 3 in a row or lay this one, copy this one, and then paste it all the way down the form. Any questions on that?
None
Let me
so
know if I
far.
can. Sorry, say that again.
None so far. I'm
Okay, let
sorry
me know
about.
if I can be more specific, like tailored to what you're needing specifically.
Yeah, I just want to ask, sorry, regarding the text box, if I like expanded just one text box,
Mhm.
does it mean like if the text goes over that length, it will just go, like automatically enter, and it will still be readable?
I see, like you're asking if the text field will cover up the information under it, is that right?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't think it does. I would have to fact check myself, but I'm pretty sure like, yeah, if it wouldn't cover up the information under it, like I know that's how it looks right here. But I believe it turns it clear. And so like even when I type in, yeah, like you can still see behind it, so if it's more like, are you trying to white something out kind of deal?
Mm.
You could do a strike through on the left-hand side. And I can double check on the best way to achieve that. But yeah, I mean, if you're just trying to white something out, so you're trying to like essentially cover a certain section of it, like with a white box so that you can't see what's behind it, is that right?
Yeah, if that's possible.
Yeah, good question. I would have to double check to see if I had a workaround. I've checked that before. I think what I ended up doing was pulling the form into somewhere to put a white box over it before pulling it in. If it's okay, I'll grab your email address and then check on the best way to do that and let you know if that would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll send my email address in the chat.
Okay, thank you. I'll grab it. I appreciate that very much. All right, so the final, step here, if you click save and close on the bottom right, that'll set up this template for us. All right, so I can see now in this template section, I do have that team form. So this is the one we were working on. I can see the time and date stamp and the name of the form here. So moving forward, if I actually want to send this to a client, it does stay on the e-signature side as far as any forms, templates that we've created like this, right? So in this regard, again, if you wanted to actually send, let's just say this is the seller questionnaire, whatever you're creating, I would come into, the e-signature side of DocuSign. I can show you again how I got here if needed. But I'm in the templates tab, and then now I would be able to just click on use right here. And then I would be able to actually apply, my client's information for real and send it to them to fill out.
I see. So there's no way to add that in the room.
So after they fill it out, so you can't send it from the DocuSign room, but after they fill it out, then you could download it as a PDF and put it in your DocuSign room. But you're right that they don't really talk to each other, the room side and the e-signature side. I mean, as far as your clients know, it doesn't make a difference for them. It would still look the same. But yes, it would not go send from your DocuSign room. It would instead send from this e-signature side, any templates that you've manually created.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I know that's a little funky because it is so separated. I'll send you as well a video on this so that you can do it with it. So I'll, again, grab your email and I will send you, what the best route is to cover something up with a white box. And I'll also send you a video of what we just did so you can follow along as well as you're setting these up. Because I know, again, this is kind of funky because it's on the e-signature side and it's not in the normal room side, so. But yeah, and then you'll see under agreements here, that's where I can see, you know, anytime that the forms have been sent or, you know, and again, when I say the forms, I mean specifically this template that was a PDF that you've created like this. Because everything else would be done in the DocuSign room side. So let me know if you have any other questions or anything to go through in DocuSign. I can go through the opportunity checklist as well, or anything else for the last, 10 minutes here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
None so far.
Okay. Would it be helpful for you to see how to create opportunity checklists in Command as well?
Yes, that will do.
Okay, great. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to go into Command instead. So in Command right here, and yeah, if you have a tab open, it's the one with the KW at the top. If not, you can just go to agent.kw.com. And where we're going to go is to the Opportunities tab on the left-hand side. So that's the one with the handshake icon. Okay, so first I'll show you what I'm talking about as far as, what I would be showing you how to create, and then I'll explain more of the how. So again, on the left-hand side, as you are learning the navigation of Command, I know it sounds like you have a good handle on it, but I do like that I can click the KW logo on the top left. And so this pans it out so I can see a little more accurately what each icon means. So I am on the one halfway down, the Opportunities tab, where of course you're looking at your pipelines for listing, buyer, and leases here. Okay, so what I'm going to show you here, and for you as a team, right, you should have the team name up here, and that's great. You'll want to create all opportunities under the team pipeline for anyone on your team. And you probably already know this, but just pointing out, like if you are creating an opportunity for anyone on your team, right, and you click create opportunity, you'll always see that the owner is Heather here. But if you want the opportunity to, let's say, go onto the team members pipeline as well, that's where at the very bottom of this box here, you'll see assignees, so that you can select which agent it also goes into. So just so that's not confusing, because I always find that the owner is confusing, because that'll always be Heather if you're creating this on the team pipeline. However, if you scroll down, right, you'll then see the assignees. That's where you can add the other team members, so that it would also show this opportunity on their pipeline as well from their account. So that's how it works for teams there. In general, for the opportunity checklist, so what that does is, so if I were to click on, let's say, you can click on anywhere on your pipeline. I'm going to click on in the listing pipeline here, the first option, so the cultivate, right? So where you're growing the relationship. But in general, what we're going to be setting up is you can create action items for each section of your pipeline. So essentially, you don't need to think about, okay, what do I need to be doing to move this transaction down my pipeline, right? You can create a checklist that stays there every time. So you know, okay, especially if you have like, let's say 6 different transactions, 6 different people you've had meaningful conversations with about real estate, right? You can use the checklist here to keep track on, okay, what have I done for this specific transaction in order to help move them down the pipeline quicker. Okay, so to show you what that looks like in person, I'll click on that first option, the little plant icon, to open up my pipeline here. And what we're going to be working on is, you'll notice if you have any set up yet, you'll see that you have this little checklist right here. It might say 0 out of 0 if you haven't set that up, and that's totally normal. But in general, what you'll see is, right, all of your opportunities in your pipeline here. And you'll see the little checklists that'll be separate for each one of them. And those checklists change depending on where that opportunity is on your pipeline. So for example, I have 7 items that I do, when they're 6 to 12 months out, and I'll show you how to change these as well. But as I move them down the pipeline, you'll see that checklist will update depending on then, okay, what are the items I need for that next stage to get them to move down the pipeline. So I love that the checklists automatically update as you pull them down the pipeline. That's so hugely helpful for organization and making a smooth process, making it so that things don't fall through the cracks. And what's cool, and I'm going to show you the how in just a second here, is you can allow them to receive updates as well on when you complete the checklist items. So a lot of mortgage companies will utilize this tool, which is very cool. So what it does essentially, especially once they're in the active stage, let's say, it would allow you to automatically, it sends an email anytime that you complete something for them. Like, okay, if you put the sign in the yard, if you put it live in the MLS, got the photos back, got the measurements back, whatever it is, you can make it so you can turn on the client updates. So it automatically sends them an email once a day, right? Or whenever you complete something that lets them know what you've completed for them, which I love because it shows the value that you provide and also keeps them in the loop with communication without you having to do that extra step of actually emailing them, okay? So those are the perks. Now let me show you how to implement it. All right, so from here, and again, just click on your pipeline to get here and let me know if I lose you at all. But you'll see it says stages and checklists on the very top right. Stages and checklists. All right, and this is where I'm able to change the stage names. So yours probably says, unless someone's changed it, something like watch, nurture, hot lead, something like that, right? You can change it. I wanted to have more of a time frame so I could be more clear on where they go in the pipeline. Okay, so in order to change, let's say, the stage name instead of just watch, to add that 6 to 12 months, you simply click the pencil icon on the far right, which will allow you to change the name here. So if you'd like to add 6 to 12 months, you absolutely can, or whatever you want to change that to. And I'm going to share with you, I do have a Excel spreadsheet, a recommendation for these checklists. Of course, I know you guys have really good systems on your team. So you'll want to, of course, whatever you guys do, you can customize to this exact template. However, I'm going to give you just a basis of what you can go off of. But if you'd like to change that and click save, I'll show you where that resource is and how to add the checklist items, because that's something that's a little tedious to go through and add all the checklist items, but once they're there for your team, they're there forever and you can use it for each transaction. So it's really, really huge to have set up. So under the checklist column here, it might say 0 out of 0 if you've never done this before, or if you do have some checklist items. Either way, you can click on where it's blue right here. And that will pull up the checklist items that you currently have. Okay, so in general, adding checklist items, you would just click add task to add in that task name. So just to show you the template that I have for you, if you would like to, copy and paste what I have. All right, this is in the opportunity class links that I sent. It should be in the chat, the Zoom chat. So if you want to grab it there. The opportunity class links here. The very bottom one, the checklist templates. If you open that, and I can send that directly to you if needed to, if you lost that one. There's a lot of tabs open for this class. I'll copy and throw this in the chat. Because if you just want to click on that, it'll take you right to this Excel spreadsheet. And on the bottom here, you'll see I have 2 tabs, one for buyers and one for sellers. So since, I'm showing you the listing pipeline, you can select the seller option here. Okay, and this just gives you, so for example, right, we're in the cultivate phase, so this first one here. We changed the name, so let's say to watch leads 6 to 12 months, that's where I got that from. And then, of course, I know your team has some great systems, so you can reference your onboarding checklist or your listing checklist. But I could copy this, right, and I can paste that right into my checklist. So if I copy anything from this Excel spreadsheet, I can then switch tabs back to the opportunity. Then just simply click Add Task to paste that in. Okay, so in general, at the beginning, when you're cultivating the relationship, you don't really want to send them a client update that you went and found their phone number somewhere, right? So in general, you'll keep that off, but if it is something that you want to do, especially later, like in the active phase or under contract, you want them to be notified when you do that step. That's when you can turn this on right here. And you can click create. So the idea is, oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question. When I click to send a client update, is there a way for me to like set a template on how I want it to be sent to them?
Kind of here, let me show you what it looks like when it does send. Because so in general, what I can do here, if I check any of these check boxes, right, it will set that up as by default a client update. However, these do not send unless you go manually turn it on for each separate transaction. Let me show you what I mean by that. So let's say, in general, I would want, these two items, of course, not really, but if it was in the active stage, I would check the items that I would in general want them to receive an update on and click save. Okay, so now in order to actually utilize the client updates and to show you what that template looks like, okay, I'm gonna click on back to listings on the top left right here. So I'm going back to my pipeline, however you'd like to get there. Right, but you'll see on each of my separate opportunity cards here, see how it says client updates off, right? So it won't accidentally send them things, right? You would have to go in for each one, right? This one's I turned on. How you would go about turning it on is I will click on the opportunity name here to open it up. And you'll see it says client updates on the top right. So the client updates, this is where I can come in and I would have to actually turn it on. I can pick what time I send it at. I can see who will receive it here. Okay, and so that you can see a preview of how it sends, right? If you scroll to the very bottom of this box, that's where it says the preview here. This is the only preview that I've seen. You'll see it also says learn more about client updates. So that'll be, written explanation in general, everything I'm saying. And I do have a video on it as well. But if I click on preview right here, this is in general what it looks like when it sends. I have not seen that you can change this template at all. I mean, it does, of course, autofill with Heather's information. So it would be Heather's information up here, headshot, logo. But then as far as this information, if it's your listing, it would autofill the listing address and pull a picture from the MLS if it's your listing. And then it would show them, it sends once a day at whatever time you say. So let's say 11 a.m. Then let's say yesterday I completed 3 different tasks, right? It will send one email each day of those, let's say, whatever you completed the last day. If you didn't complete anything in the last 24 hours, it wouldn't send anything. But this is what that looks like.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, of course. But yeah, so I know that was a quick overview of the opportunity checklist in general. I'm happy to help you with those one-on-one, but where I would recommend, starting with the opportunity checklist, right? I have a 10-minute video on how to do that. And I go over, copying and pasting from this checklist template, as far as, if you just want to copy and paste from the Excel spreadsheet and put all those checklist items in, or just use if you have an existing checklist that you already use, great. And then this one right here will show you, activating client update emails. So essentially the second thing we just went over, and that'll be like a 10-15 minute video as well. Yeah, so let me know if you have any questions. I will go ahead and grab your email here, transactions@gmail.com, and I will shoot that over to you. That'll probably be this afternoon. I do have a couple more appointments, and then I'll have that to you. I'll send you on how to white out a box, and I'll send you a video on how to create templates, because I don't think that's on here. Now the templates you're referring to on the e-signature side, at least.
All right. Thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm gonna put my email in the chat as well. So if you have any questions as you go through that, please feel free to email me. I'm the DocuSign and transactions specialist. So, if you have questions on any of this stuff, email me. I'm more than happy to help. Of course, you can set up one-on-one appointments with us, and I can really, help figure out what you need and what will be the best way to do it.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, my pleasure. I hope you have a great day, Nadine.
All right, you too have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.